A millionaire husband loses everything in a single brutal week. His company gone, his fortune wiped out, his reputation shattered overnight. And just when he needs support the most, his wife walks out without looking back, leaving him alone in a mansion stripped of its luxury. Reporters gather, movers carry out the last pieces of his past life, and the once powerful CEO stands frozen in disbelief. But as everyone abandons him, one person doesn't move. His young maid steps forward with a decision that shocks the entire house, something no one ever expected. And that's where the real story begins. Grant Miller had once lived the kind of life people only saw in magazines. He was a millionaire, a respected CEO, and a man who moved through the world with confidence and control. His mansion sat on a quiet hill in California, surrounded by tall palm trees and a driveway long enough to make visitors feel small. Luxury cars filled his garage, art covered every wall, and invitations to elite parties arrived almost daily. But now, everything felt different. The mansion was still standing, but the warmth was gone. Boxes lined the hallways, furniture was missing, and workers came and left with quiet whispers. A storm had hit Grant's life, one he never saw coming. A business deal went wrong, partners betrayed him, and money disappeared faster than he could understand. Overnight, the man people once envied had become a target of blame, gossip, and pitiful stares. The only thing louder than the silence in his home was the echo of his own thoughts. Grant had built his entire life around success. Losing it felt like losing himself. Sophie, his wife, had always enjoyed the spotlight that came with being married to a powerful man. She loved the parties, the clothes, the attention. But the moment Grant fell, she slipped away. Their last conversation still played in his head. "I didn't sign up for this," she said coldly as she packed her jewelry. "I can't stay with a man who has nothing to offer." Her footsteps faded long before he found the strength to respond. Only one person remained in the mansion with him: Emily Carter, the young maid who had been working quietly in the background for months. She lived in a tiny rented apartment miles away and worked 2 other part-time jobs just to support herself. Yet she never complained. She greeted people with kindness and moved through the house with calm dedication. Now, she watched Grant carefully as he sat alone in his nearly empty living room. She had seen wealthy families fall apart before, but something about Grant felt different. There was a softness behind his pain, a loneliness that had been hidden long before the money disappeared. Grant didn't notice her at first. He was too caught up in old memories. Sophie laughing with friends, business partners shaking his hand, employees calling him sir with respect. Everything felt like a distant dream. Emily finally spoke, her voice gentle. "Mr. Miller, do you need anything?" He looked up, surprised. Everyone else had already left. Why was she still here? Emily didn't answer the question. He didn't speak aloud. Instead, she picked up a fallen frame near his feet. It was a photo of him smiling, a happier version of himself. "You'll find your way again," she said softly. Grant didn't know why, but her words hit deeper than anything he had heard in days. Still, trouble continued to gather outside his home. Rumors spread, debts increased, and something darker was heading his way. Something Emily noticed before he did. And that unexpected discovery would change everything. The next morning, Grant walked through the half-empty mansion like a stranger in his own life. Movers had taken most of the expensive furniture. His millionaire world had shrunk to a few cardboard boxes and a hollow echo in every hallway. The silence felt heavier than the loss itself. Emily arrived early, holding a small bag of groceries. She shouldn't have been there, Her shift was technically over, and she wasn't required to return. But she did. She stepped inside with quiet determination. "I brought breakfast," she said simply. Grant blinked. No one had brought him anything in days. His closest friends had vanished after the collapse, and Sophie had made it clear she was done. Yet this maid, a young woman he barely spoke to before, was standing in his kitchen as if she belonged there. "You didn't need to do that," he muttered. "I know," she replied, "but you look like you haven't eaten." He opened his mouth to argue, but his stomach growled louder than his pride. Emily didn't smile. She just set the table with a calm that felt strangely comforting. As they ate, Grant noticed something unusual. Emily didn't treat him like a fallen CEO or a failed millionaire. She didn't pity him. She just cared. Her presence carried a sincerity he wasn't used to. "Why are you still here?" he finally asked. Emily didn't look up from her plate. "Because people matter more when they're hurting." Grant froze. No one had ever said that to him, not even Sophie during their best years. Later that day, a man from the bank arrived to conduct the final inspection of the house. His tone was cold, his steps loud. He pointed out documents Grant needed to sign, each paper representing another piece of his fading life. Grant tried to stay composed, but something inside him cracked. His hands shook as he signed the papers. When the pen slipped, Emily stepped forward and steadied his wrist, surprising both men. The bank officer frowned. "Is she allowed to interfere?" Grant looked up sharply. "She's helping. Leave it." The officer left with a stiff nod, but Emily remained beside Grant. She noticed the truth he tried to hide. He wasn't just losing a house. He was losing himself. That afternoon, Grant found Emily outside near the garbage bins, lifting boxes twice her weight. She worked alone, sweat on her forehead, determination in her eyes. Something about her strength stunned him. "You shouldn't be doing this alone," Grant said. Emily shrugged. "You can help if you want." He hesitated. Grant Miller, former billionaire and CEO, had never taken out trash in his entire adult life. But he walked over anyway and lifted a box. Emily smiled, not out of amusement, but encouragement. It felt strange, humbling, real. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Grant and Emily stood at the edge of the driveway, surrounded by silence. For the first time in a long time, Grant felt something other than fear. But peace never lasted long. Just as they stepped inside, Emily paused. Her expression shifted, tense, alert. "What's wrong?" Grant asked. She pointed to a dark SUV idling at the end of the driveway. The same car had been there the previous evening, and the night before that. "I've seen that vehicle 3 times, she whispered. "Someone's watching the house." Grant's heartbeat quickened. "Are you sure?" "Very sure," she replied. "Whoever they are, they're not here by accident." Grant stared at the SUV, unease spreading like cold water down his spine. For the first time since his collapse, fear turned into something else, danger. And Emily's next quiet confession would change everything. The SUV didn't return the next morning, but an uneasy feeling hung in the air. Grant tried to push it aside, but Emily remained alert, watching every shadow, every passing car, every sound near the gates. Something about her attention to danger surprised him. She wasn't just observant. She was trained by life to notice threats. By noon, the mansion received an unexpected visitor, Sophie. She walked in as if she still owned the place. Wearing designer sunglasses and a smug expression, her voice echoed sharply through the half-empty foyer. "Grant, we need to talk about the divorce papers." Grant stiffened. "You already got what you wanted." "No," she corrected, glancing at Emily with disdain. "Not everything." Emily stepped back, uncomfortable under Sophie's icy stare. Sophie turned to Grant again, smiling falsely. I want the remaining shares of your company, the ones you haven't lost yet. Grant felt the anger rise. Those shares are worthless right now. Maybe, she said with a shrug, but it's still leverage, and I deserve something after wasting years with you. Emily watched Sophie carefully. Something about the woman's confidence didn't match the situation. Sophie was too certain, too sure that Grant still had something valuable left. Emily noticed the envelope in Sophie's handbag, a glimpse of legal documents and something else, something handwritten. She filed the detail in her mind. When Sophie finally left, Grant sank onto a crate, exhaling shakily. Why is she doing this? He whispered. Emily hesitated, then said, because she thinks you're still useful to her. She wouldn't fight this hard for a man she believes is finished. Her words stunned him. You think she knows something? Something I don't? Emily didn't answer directly. Instead, she said softly, people like her don't cling to nothing. They cling to whatever they can still control. That night, the tension grew. Grant found himself pacing the kitchen, old memories resurfacing, business partners turning cold, Sophie arguing late into the night, his father warning him years ago that not all battles were fought in boardrooms. Emily cooked a simple dinner, trying to ease the heaviness. For the first time, they shared parts of their past. Grant admitted, I never knew how to live without work, without success, without being needed. Emily lowered her gaze. I never had any of that. He looked at her, surprised. She rarely spoke about herself. My mom left when I was 12, she continued quietly. My dad worked 3 jobs. I learned early how to survive and how to watch for danger. Grant finally understood why she noticed the SUV, why she sensed threats before he did. You've been through a lot, he said gently. Emily smiled weakly. Life teaches you things money never will. Before Grant could respond, a loud knock rattled the front door. The knock came again, harder this time. Emily stepped forward instinctively, placing herself a little in front of Grant. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Something's not right. Grant's heart pounded as the final knock echoed through the hollow mansion. Whoever was outside wasn't here for a friendly visit. And when Grant opened the door, everything he thought he knew was about to change. Grant pulled the front door open with a mix of fear and stubborn courage. Outside stood a man in a dark jacket, holding a thin folder under his arm. His expression was firm, almost emotionless. Mr. Miller? He asked. Grant nodded cautiously. I'm here on behalf of the investors who lost everything when your company collapsed. Grant's pulse quickened. I already gave them everything I had. The man shook his head. Not everything. There are missing documents, missing transfers, and they believe you know exactly where they are. Emily stepped forward. He's telling the truth. He lost everything. The man's eyes hardened. You're the maid, right? This doesn't concern you. Emily didn't move. It concerns me if you're threatening him. Grant felt a shock of fear at the tension rising between them. The man opened the folder, revealing photos, receipts, transactions Grant had never seen before. These were sent anonymously, the man said. Someone wants you destroyed completely. They want us to believe you hid money offshore. Grant stared at the papers, his voice shaking. I didn't do this. I never moved a cent. Emily's jaw tightened. Sophie. The man didn't respond, but his silence said enough. Someone close to Grant had fed lies to desperate investors, painting him as a thief. I'll be back tomorrow, the man warned. And if you don't have answers, things will get worse. When he left, Grant felt the weight of everything collapsing again. He wasn't just broke. He was being framed. His breathing grew unsteady. They're going to take what little I have left, They're going to destroy me." Emily stepped closer, her voice trembling yet strong. "Mr. Miller, listen to me. You are not the man they're trying to make you out to be. You lost your money, not your integrity. And you're not alone in this, not anymore." Grant's eyes filled with tears he didn't try to hide. For the first time in his life, he felt seen for who he was, without the wealth, the title, or the power. Emily continued, voice breaking into a heart-touching plea. "When everyone walked away, you still treated people with kindness. Money didn't make you human. Your heart did. And I won't let them destroy that." Before Grant could speak, Emily suddenly stiffened. She walked to the window and peered outside. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Grant, the SUV is back." Grant rushed to her side. The black vehicle idled at the curb, its lights off, engine running quietly. Only this time, someone stepped out, and they were walking toward the house. Grant's breath caught as the figure approached the front door. The porch light revealed a familiar face, Mark Davis, his longtime accountant and friend. But he didn't look like the man Grant once trusted. His expression was strained, eyes darting nervously as if he were carrying the weight of a dangerous secret. "Mark?" Grant whispered. "What are you doing here?" Mark stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. "I need to talk to you, urgently." Emily stayed close, watching him with careful suspicion. Mark exhaled shakily. "Those investors, they're after you because they think you hid money. But you didn't. Someone else did. Someone who had access to your accounts." Grant felt his stomach twist. "Who?" Mark looked at the floor. "Sophie." A cold silence fell. "She forged your signatures," Mark continued, voice trembling. "She moved money before the collapse. Then sent anonymous documents blaming you. She wanted everything. She wanted you ruined so she could walk away wealthy." Grant's heart dropped. He knew Sophie was selfish, but this was betrayal with intent to destroy. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" Grant snapped. Mark swallowed hard. "Because she paid me to keep quiet. I needed the money, my mother's medical bills." His voice broke. "But I can't live with it anymore. They're dangerous, Grant. They think you stole from them. And Sophie is feeding them every lie she can." Emily stepped forward. "Then we stop her." Mark nodded. "I have proof. Transfers, recordings, everything. But if Sophie finds out I came here, she'll come after all of us." Grant felt something shift inside him. For months he'd lived in fear, shame, and exhaustion. But now the truth was finally within reach, and he wasn't standing alone. "Give me the evidence," Grant said. "This ends tonight." Mark handed him a flash drive. "This will clear your name. But once you use it, the investors will turn on, and she won't take that quietly." Emily placed a gentle hand on Grant's shoulder. "You've lost enough. You deserve your life back." Her words filled him with a strength he hadn't felt in months. A powerful realization settled in his chest. Kindness, not wealth, had saved him. Emily's presence had pulled him from the darkest moments of his life. But just as Grant opened his mouth to speak, a loud crash shattered the moment. Glass exploded from the back window. Emily gasped. Mark stumbled backward. Grant froze. Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Someone had broken into the house, and they were coming straight for them. The footsteps grew louder, but before fear could choke the room, Emily grabbed Grant's arm and pulled him behind the kitchen counter. Mark ducked beside them, panic shaking his breath. Then, silence. A figure stepped into the living room. The intruder moved with confidence, not caution. And when the porch light caught her face, Grant felt his chest tighten. It was Sophie. Her expression was wild, twisted with desperation. "I knew you'd betray me, Mark," she shouted. "I knew you'd run back to him." Grant rose slowly, not with fear, but with a strength he didn't know he still carried. "Sophie, it's over." She shook her head violently. "No, you owe me. After everything I gave up for you, you abandoned me the second the money disappeared," Grant said quietly. "You didn't love me. You loved the lifestyle." She lunged forward, reaching for the flash drive Mark had given him, but Emily stepped between them without hesitation. Grant felt his heart stop. Emily, small, gentle Emily, held her ground with the courage of someone who'd survived worse storms than this one. "You've hurt him enough," Emily said firmly. "You won't hurt him again." "For the first time, Sophie." Her anger cracked, and underneath it, the truth showed. She wasn't powerful. She was terrified. Terrified of losing the last scraps of control. Grant held the flash drive tightly. "Sophie," he said, calm but firm, "you framed me. You stole from my company. You turned people against me. But kindness saved me, something you never understood." Sophie's eyes widened. "You won't win," she whispered. "Maybe not," Grant replied, "but I'll be free." Police sirens echoed in the distance. Mark had called them while hiding. Sophie tried to run, but the officers arrived too quickly. They escorted her out as she screamed Grant's name, her cries fading into the night. When the house finally fell quiet, Grant felt an emotional wave crash over him. He had lost everything, but what he gained now mattered far more. Emily placed a hand on his back, steady and warm. "You're free now," she whispered. Grant turned toward her, eyes soft. "I wouldn't have survived this without you." Months passed. Investigations cleared Grant completely. Sophie's fraud was exposed in full detail. Investors apologized. And though Grant never regained his millionaire status, he discovered something deeper. A life rebuilt on honesty, gratitude, and genuine connection. He sold the damaged mansion and moved into a smaller home near the coast, peaceful, quiet, filled with sunlight. Emily visited often, then daily, until her presence felt as natural as breathing. And then came the day of the final judgment. The court officially returned Grant's remaining assets, declared him innocent, and labeled Sophie the sole perpetrator of the fraud. Mark testified truthfully, clearing his own conscience at last. As Grant walked out of the courthouse, Emily waited on the steps with 2 cups of coffee. She smiled in her gentle, steady way. "It's over," she said. Grant took the cup, but more importantly, he took the moment to truly look at her. "No," he said softly, "it's beginning." They walked away side by side. Later that evening, Grant placed a small framed photo on his mantel. Him and Emily, standing beside the ocean during their first peaceful week in the new house. It became the symbol of his restored life, a reminder that losing everything had given him something priceless. Not wealth, not power, but kindness, healing, and a future built not on money, but on heart.